Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Alouettes Flightdeck podcast, the podcast dedicated to Montreal Alouettes football. Season 11 begins right here, right now. Proudly presented to you by Royal Retros, where you don't need a time machine to get that sweet throwback merch. Head on over to royalretros.com, use the promo code Flightdeck at checkout, and you will save 10% off your entire order. I'm Cliffy D. That's Tim Capper. Oops, that's Tim Capper. Oh my gosh. So excited, Tim. We're back. We are back.
Yeah, and it's season 11. It's a season of new beginnings. It's now starting the road. Even we've gone through free agency, and obviously that's a huge topic for the show tonight. But it is now really, even without the guys not being on the field until in camp until May, the road to Calgary starts now. It's already started. And what better way to start our 11th season, broadcast season, and to talk about Alouettes football, everything that we can about Alouettes football, and just talk about the team itself and the sport we love. And 2026 brings in a lot of things when you think about it, dude. This is the very first season, and I'm still trying to do some research. This is potentially the very first season that you were going to see in the first time in personal most in history. You're going to see teams on both sides of the field at the stadium. First time.
You mean opposing sides?
Yeah. Well, yes, on the opposing sides rather than So it's leads up all obviously to 2027 and stuff like that. It's going to be fun. It really is. And by the way, if you're watching us live, make sure you chime in. We would love to know what you guys are thinking about the team itself, about free agency when we start talking about it and stuff like that. Leave us comments, whether it be over on X, Facebook, or on YouTube. We want to hear what you have to say about the new Alouettes, the ones that aren't returning, and that stuff like that. But again, really, there is no real other news. I mean, a couple things that have broken. As of late. But the first thing, what did you do, Cliff, on your off season? Because obviously the last time that we saw each other was for the season finale back in December. How has everything gone for you for your off season so far?
Well, it's been a very interesting off season. It was definitely needed. I mean, we've been going ham, as the kids say. Do they still say that? I doubt it. Anyways. We've been going crazy with Grey Cup in Winnipeg, and even though the result was not what we wanted, we got so much accomplished in our 10th season. We went crazy, Tim, and we needed a recharge. We needed a reset, and it's not to say that we don't appreciate and love talking all things CFL. And for us, we just needed a little bit of a recharge. So that's exactly what I did. Just focused on NFL, watching my San Francisco 49ers make it to the playoffs and then get pasted in the divisional round. So that was not so much fun. After that, that's okay. I suppose I can't complain too much compared to where your Steelers are going. So anyways, I digress. Took a little trip to Cuba to truly recharge and get some sunshine, get some vitamin D, and man,
you made sure to bring those jerry cans with you, right?
Well, it's funny. When I was there, they had gas. Now all of a sudden they don't got gas. So obviously I made it home though. So I mean, man, my heart goes out to all the people in Cuba right now. We met so many wonderful people working at the resort, the tours in Havana. What an experience. I mean, folks, when this country is able to get back on its feet, when certain political parties stop screwing around with this wonderful nation, if you've never been to Cuba, you have to go. It is absolutely tremendous. What a wonderful place. I mean, just beautiful, just absolutely beautiful. Like, words can't even begin to describe how amazing Cuba is. So it was definitely needed. And it's funny, even talking to you while I was in Cuba as well, as we were starting to get ready for this show, for this season of the Alouettes Flight Deck. it got the juices flowing. Like it got me thinking. Yeah, I can't wait. Oh, and as I got back, that's when the Ed Hervey tampering window was about to open, and that's when we were going to start finding out who is going to be staying with the Montreal Alouettes who haven't already signed, and who will be wearing new colors this year. So as soon as I got off the plane, basically, it was just a matter of, okay, let's do this. Let's see what's going on. And quite the interesting week of the tampering period, wouldn't you say?
Oh, very much so, very much so. Me, by the way, I really didn't do much. I just took some time off. Yeah, the computer sat where it did. The basically the studio sat dark for the month plus that it was there, and some little tweaks here and there that had to be done for the 2026 broadcast season and stuff like that, which we're really really looking forward to showing our viewers and watchers to see coming up. So yeah, and again, same thing with the NFL, the Super Bowl, the Super Bowl, meh, you know what I mean? It's like 19-0 at one point. It's like uh, Grey Cup. Owls may have been back 18 points in the Grey Cup. At least they made a game of it. You know what I mean? So is everything positive over on the 50-yard side? I don't know. We'll find out next year too. But I agree with you. I mean, there are certain little tidbits here and there that led up to what as you said, with the tampering window opening up. And man, there were some surprises, though. I will admit, before we can actually talk about who we ended up getting, who we ended up losing so far. We're just a couple days removed since free agency did just start in the CFL. There were some surprises, I think, other than the ones that we had mentioned on the finale back in December, of guys who. It's funny. We go through the lists of people every year, and I think this is the second year in a row. I think maybe we should stop doing this. People that we think they're going to be showing back up or potentially being re-signed, and they aren't. But then again, too, and this is a topic of conversation which I wanted to bring up, but. In the case of, I don't think we expected to see Austin Mack not returning into Montreal colors for 2026. I don't think any of us expected that. It was just a matter of, it looks like, I think it was said maybe by Austin or Howard said, it was said they were going in a different direction. I myself, just assumption on my part that they may have asked Mac to maybe renegotiate his contract, and obviously the answer was no. But that's speculation on my part. No insider information in there. So he received his roster bonus. He was released. And that seems to be a topic of discussion. And I wanted to ask you about this one, and then we can lead into the other stuff about surprises of who didn't make it to the tampering window, so to speak, as an Alouette. As we've seen recently too, Cliff, when it comes to the CFL, obviously everybody knows about the roster bonuses leading up to the free agency period in February. It's usually sometime anywhere between mid-December through January, where the players may have a roster bonus built into their contracts. As we've seen recently, when it comes to a lot of the players getting more money, a lot of these players, especially, and I'll use Austin Mack as a good example too, after he signed with Edmonton, is that a lot of these guys are getting big numbers when it comes to signing bonuses. So my question to you, Cliff, is, do you think the roster bonuses are a thing of the past? Because in my opinion, I think they should be just done away with. If you're just going to release somebody, not because you owe them money. If you want to go a different direction, go a different direction. Because it seems like a lot of these guys, when it comes to contracts where you are guaranteed money, which is a thing now, and these huge signing bonuses, to me, I think it's kind of making these roster bonuses kind of moot. But I don't know what you think about it.
I see what you're saying. I definitely can appreciate how you feel about that. And I guess a big part of me is wondering or hoping that, when contracts are being negotiated, whether it's 1 year, 2 year, or in the case of Austin Mack, a 4-year deal, which we thought, okay, well, it is as safe as it can get. I mean, anybody who buys an Austin Mack jersey, they're good. And then 18 months later, he's now a member of the Edmonton Elks, which is was definitely not on the bingo cards, as they say. When it comes to these bonuses, though, I mean, they're negotiated in as part of the deal, and the idea I've been told is it forces teams to commit to a player that they're really serious about, or give them the opportunity to, apply their trade elsewhere. So, are they a relic of the past? I think in a lot of ways, yes, they are. I mean, why not just pay the player what he's worth? I mean, like a signing bonus at the time that he signs the contract, yes, absolutely. I think that's a great idea. And I know for a lot of them, that is the motivation. I think back to Avon Coburn back in 2011. After the Alouettes went and won the back-to-back Grey Cup championships, he's like, okay, I got my rings, time to get paid. And he wanted to stay in Montreal, but he also wanted a big old paycheck. And I remember when he signed with Hamilton, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think his signing bonus was something like $50,000. He was glowing about it. He was jacked about that. So I get the appeal of it, and I also get why you may want to sort of push that down the road a little bit. Excuse me. So, and that's in the case of Austin Mack and other players as well. Like, this isn't just a Montreal Alouettes thing. Like, other CFL players this year were also basically told to hit the road because the team didn't want to pay X number of dollars for a signing bonus. So,
yeah,
I'd like to see teams,
big names too. Trey Ford being one of them. There's another example, and there are quite a few others. I mean, a couple of the guys the Owls picked up were under that same thing too, that they got an early release. And and just to add this too, because this is our friends over at the Surf District over in Edmonton who ended up signing Big Mac. It's not the Big Mac anymore, by the way. It's just Big Mac. They go, I think the players and agents want the offseason bonus so they can get released prior to free agency and get a jump. Well, true, but what's not having the bonus? What's stopping them from doing it anyways? Because essentially that's what it is. You can ask for your release if you think that they're not. If you and a team is not, for whatever reason, not meshing leading into the next season, it's like just release them, or a player can ask, which we've seen it all the time for an NFL opportunity or whatever it may be. They can just release them.
Yeah. Also, too, in the NFL, if you release a player in order to to get out of the contract, so to speak, don't forget, like, some of their money is kept on the salary cap as well, which would make teams think twice about when to release a player or even to sign them to certain bonuses, because ultimately it comes down to the same thing. It forces the team to make a decision as to whether this person is in our future or not, and to either honor that commitment or realize, okay, maybe this deal it doesn't carry the same weight that it used to. It doesn't have the same cachet that it used to. We'd like a do-over. And yeah, it's going to cost in order to do so. I mean, I don't know if the CFL would ever consider doing something like that, negotiating contracts like that. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe one day that's the route they take, but I'm sure players definitely don't want any part of that. And teams, for the most part, would have to start being a little more litigious and a little more thoughtful when it comes to offering a contract, making sure that, okay, we want to keep this player and we're willing to pay X number of dollars for him. But if we let him go, for whether it's due to injury or he's just not producing or better options come along, we're going to have to eat a lot of that salary as a result of it. It's a little different in the CFL though because of these roster bonuses. But I mean, if nothing else, it does force teams to make serious decisions as well. Opposing teams now look, oh, I didn't know this guy was available. I want him on my team. And now that's the opportunity for them. And that's the opportunity for the player to sign with said team and showcase what they can do. Because I'm sure Austin Mack, there's no doubt in his mind that he thinks he can still perform at a high level. And as do I. Now he's going to want to, now I'm sure he's got revenge on his mind thinking, okay, I moved my family up to Montreal. I started a life here. I was putting up roots in the community. We talked about this with him at Grey Cup. And then the team decides, nah, we don't want you anymore. We want you, but we don't want to pay you this hefty bonus. And now he's in Edmonton.
The bonus itself, though, is minor. I mean, it's only $45,000, not by what it's just a drop in the bucket versus what some of the other players were getting as their offseason bonuses or the roster bonuses. There may have been more into it. We have not yet talked to Mac yet. Maybe our friends over at the Turf District will be able to get a little bit more insight. Could it have been that Mac, the injuries became an issue? Who knows? He had an injury over the last 2 seasons. A non-factor in the Grey Cup this year. So it's anything. There are always reasons, and as we have learned from Danny Mac over the years, a player who has been signed to a contract, whether it be a single-year contract, a 2-year contract, or what Mac was with a 4-year contract, if their grade drops, as we've seen, we can think of a player as one thing. Danny Mac may think that they're something else, and we get that, and we understand football is a business. It can suck sometimes, but football is a business. So.
Well, and this is why I always say you got to pay attention to the name on the front of the jersey, not necessarily the one on the back of the jersey. And yeah, it's tough because big fan of Austin Mack. Definitely, I was excited when he came to the league in 2023. Like, mostly because, yes, I always say mostly because, yes, former San Francisco 49er. So of course that's going to get my attention. But look what he did that rookie year in 2023 and helping the Alouettes win the Grey Cup. Wow. I mean, that guy was on fire. Just, Danny Mac looked like a genius getting this guy, and people didn't know him from a hole in the wall here in Montreal. Everybody was all upset because Eugene Lewis left in free agency to go to Edmonton. And then Austin Mack comes in and steals the show. And, well, it kind of feels like 2 years later, we're almost 3 years later, we're back in that same situation. Superstar wide receiver goes to Edmonton in free agency, and now this is an opportunity for another potential unknown player to come along and be that next superstar that the Montreal Alouettes need.
Ben, that's true. What about getting away from Mac there? Thoughts on some of the other players too that didn't make it to the tampering window as an Alouette?
Well, there's a couple ways we can go with this. Let's talk about. Let's talk about it right away. Like potentially the biggest news, and I'll say it like this because he didn't make it to the tampering window, but it wasn't necessarily for any reason other than a change of heart, change of lifestyle, change of direction of career, change career essentially. Marc-Antoine Dequoy, who we talked about during the season finale. We weren't sure what was going to happen with him as far as was he going to stay with the Montreal Alouettes? Was he going to go elsewhere? If he did go elsewhere, was the team going to be okay? I mean, could we even see Marc-Antoine Dequoy wearing another uniform? Well, unfortunately, Marc-Antoine Dequoy will not be with the Montreal Alouettes this year. He will also not be with any other team this year. In a very surprising maneuver, Marc-Antoine Dequoy has elected to retire. And I got to say, another thing I did not have on my bingo card in 2026 was the retirement of Marc-Antoine Dequoy. Supposedly, one other team was about to make an offer, or had either had made an offer or was about to make an offer, as well as the Montreal Alouettes had made an offer to him. But after discussing with his family and just taking a look at the landscape, I guess, and the opportunities that await him in TV and in other media here in Quebec, where he has become a major, major star on TV and such, he's elected to walk out while he's still healthy, while he still can and walk. Still be a productive member of society. And I got to say, I salute him for it. It's going to be tough. I am a fan of Marc-Antoine Dequoy. There are times where he kind of makes me scratch my head because he can come up with some absolutely outstanding plays, and then some plays it just feels like he's just blown right past everybody and missing his mark, and you're left to wonder what the hell's going on. And ever since that 2023 season where he played absolutely outstanding football, I hesitate to say this, but I mean, he did kind of lose a little bit of who he was, and due to injury or due to, again, becoming this multimedia star outside of football. I can't say for certain, but I feel like we didn't get to see the Marc-Antoine Dequoy that we saw in 2023. We saw shades of him this past season. It started to look like he was starting to find his form again, but at the same time, it still wasn't that superstar that we saw in 2023. And I wonder if Marc-Antoine kind of feels the same way too. Like, I think a lot of opponents didn't want to try him with anything because, I mean, at a moment's notice, he can pick the ball out of the air and just be absolutely deadly with interceptions. I have to wonder though, like he wasn't the same. He hasn't really been the same person since that Grey Cup run, and even this year, still I don't want to say a shadow of his former self, but definitely not quite the same guy. And I wonder if he realizes that too, and he thought, you know what, maybe it's better to walk away. Maybe it's better to, leave the fans with the best possible image of myself. And believe me, people still remember that Grey Cup run in 2023. They still remember that fiery speech he gave at the post-game speech, and just how much of a superstar he truly has become here in Quebec. And now he's got the opportunity to go do television. He can do acting. He can do reality shows. He can do he was doing some color commentary, even for or not color commentary, but he was an analyst for the Vanier Cup on TVA Sport, and apparently did a very phenomenal job with it. So that's another possibility for him as well. Like, he can still be involved in football if he wants to, but I mean, I think this is the best possible opportunity for him, is to, rather than, get back out on the field, risk injury, or maybe even risk playing for another team and not fitting into their system and just not looking like the Marc-Antoine Dequoy that we all know and love. Sometimes you just are better off to, leave a year too early than a year too late. I think that's what Marc-Antoine was thinking, and maybe that's what he's feeling. And if that's the case, then good on him for realizing that and being able to walk out still a hero, still very much loved and appreciated by all of Alouettes Nation. It's just, something that I truly wasn't expecting this year. And, well, I'm not too worried about this Alouette secondary without him. As we discussed in the season finale, you've got Arthur Hamlin. You've got Nate Beauchemin. You've also got another draft pick from 2023 that is coming to the Alouettes finally. We'll talk about that momentarily. There are plenty of options for the Alouettes when it comes to replacing Marc-Antoine Dequoy. I mean, you don't really replace him, but I mean, someone will step into that role and succeed and do very well, because that's one thing that this team has always been very good at, is a Canadian safety that plays absolutely outstanding. You're talking about guys like Etienne Boulay, Mathieu Prou, Marc-Olivier Brouillette. And yes, Marc-Antoine Dequoy is definitely in that group as well. So I don't know who it's going to be, whether it's going to be Hamlin, whether it's going to be Nate Beauchemin or somebody else, but somebody will step into that role and they will thrive, because that's just how Montreal rolls. That's how this team is built, is to have an absolutely outstanding safety, preferably at the national position, take over that position and do it to the best of their ability.
I was surprised too, and he was on the list of being, not being re-signed by the Alouettes. And it really makes me wonder, because remember he had that injury earlier in the season. I think it was a shoulder injury. Maybe he did not get fully. Again, we're going back to the Mac thing. Maybe he wasn't fully 100% and was not decided, as you said, to just. I mean, you don't think of a guy, a superstar like him, especially in Quebec, I mean, you and I will remember the lines for fans to just take a photo with him post game. Um, it had to have been something. It had to have been something to walk away from a contract, you know, and he just did. He just did. So I don't know what we did have a few other guys that did the exact same thing. You know, guys that didn't actually make it to the as I said to it. There others were Deontay Ruffin. He was released before the CFL free agency. James Letcher. I think once we ended up, it's funny. At first, we thought we were swapping returners with the Ottawa Red Blacks, but that ended up not being the case. As the thing is, as we saw when it comes to the tampering window, not all reports from the tampering window are correct. So Letcher was released. He ended up being in Saskatchewan, and then us. Again, we'll get to it. We did pick up a guy who I think is going to be gangbusters, and I hope he can. I hope our new guy is able to just put a lot more energy into our return game, because I felt it had become a little stale, at least recently. And you can't fault Letcher. Obviously, he was hurt and stuff like that too, but you can't fault him. But I'm hoping there's some changes with that also. Jamar McGlosser was released. Dylan Wynn, obviously, he signed with somebody else too. Same thing with Scott Hunter, but they made it up to that tampering window. Thoughts on the other guys like a Letcher and stuff like that? Because some to say, well, wide receivers are a dime a dozen, are returners a dime a dozen? Really? I mean, we ended up getting a pretty big name, and it's funny. A lot of the returners this year in the CFL actually did a lot of flip flopping, and they're now with different teams, especially the big names.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I kind of feel like the Montreal Alouettes are turning into a returner factory for the Saskatchewan Roughriders because, as you recall, I think it was back in 2022 that the Alouettes traded Mario Alford to the Riders. And now James Letcher goes to the Riders. So, I mean, is that the goal of the Montreal Alouettes now, is to come up with returners for the Saskatchewan Roughriders? I don't know, but yeah, just I found that to be quite amusing. But yeah, returners are wide receivers a dime a dozen in the Canadian Football League. American ones can be at times. However, returners themselves, that's not as easy as it looks. And as you alluded to, Montreal has had some issues with that over the past year. In regards to James Letcher and being injured and other people trying to step up and take over that role. Easier said than done. We watched Charleston Rambo doing returns, and quite frankly, that had varying degrees of success. Travis Tice, he did okay when it came to returns. Not spectacular, but at the same time, he's a running back, and Montreal needs their running back to do running back things, not necessarily do returner things. You obviously don't want Tyson Philpott doing returns, even though he did do them back in the day during his rookie season. He's just a little too valuable right now to be a returner. So, yeah, I would say that finding and developing returners are definitely something every team needs to do and do properly. Or you go out and you get someone else's returner, which is what the Saskatchewan Roughriders obviously did. And yes, the Montreal Alouettes did likewise as well. Taking Ottawa's former returner in Devontae Dedmon. Now, this move intrigues me for a lot of reasons. One, when he's healthy, absolutely explosive. He has torched the Alouettes on numerous occasions to the point where one of our seatmates, too, would get so mad every time the Alouettes would kick off or punt to Devontae Dedmon. It's like, don't kick the 17. And, well, he's not wrong because, yeah, how many times did Devontae Dedmon torch the Alouettes for a touchdown? I mean, one is too many, but it was more than one. So I kind of look at this like when the Alouettes signed Nick Lewis in free agency back in, I want to say 2015 or 2016. it was almost like a sigh of relief. Like, finally, this guy's been an Alouette killer for years. Now he's on our side. That's kind of how I feel about Devontae Dedmon. Is now he's on. He can't hurt us if he's playing for us. So that I wonder if that's the reasoning behind his signing. And again, he too, same as Letcher, was dealing with injuries, and that can be tough to come back from. And maybe that's why Ottawa decided to move on and try their luck elsewhere. But if he comes back 100%, Devontae Dedmon still can be very much a threat. And I think with the special teams unit that this Alouettes team has, I think the potential to have someone break off a few of these return touchdowns is sitting right there. They just didn't have the right horses back there to do it last year. Devontae Dedmon could be that difference maker, or somebody else could step up into that role as well. But I'm very curious to see what Devontae Dedmon does wearing blue and red this year for the Alouettes.
Yeah, and again, it's I joke every year. I've said this. I think I've already said it once this year when it came to another gridiron sport. We talk about rosters and what they are right now. They're just on paper, and as I've said every year, Cliff, when it comes to paper, what does that mean, Cliff?
Paper burns.
There you go. So rosters right now are rosters. We got to see what they can do in camp. And there were some interesting stuff too. Besides that, you brought up a couple of the guys already. There were some major extensions. Justin Lawrence, Gabriel Masonov, Alexander Gagne, Alexander Hollis, Joseph Zima. We talked about Travis Tice earlier, and just recently Regis Sibasu. A lot of these guys I'm not surprised about. Travis Tice, as I said, if you think about it, he had some great returns. He had 2 punt returns, if I'm not mistaken. Was it one in the preseason and then one in the regular season?
For a touchdown, yes.
Yeah. But there's just more to that. Obviously, it's setting things up, and it's funny. I joke every year, but it actually is true, and I think a lot of the teams are going to go through this because you know what. A lot of one-year contracts. I understand why these guys are signing one-year contracts. I get frustrated with one-year contracts, not just with the Alouettes, but across the board. A lot of the big names, the Alouettes have signed to more than one-year contracts, which I have actually loved. But we're going to need a scorecard at training camp at St. Jerome. It's going to be a given,
It's like that. But again, too, Austin Mack, you take a look. He signed a 4-year deal, and that too wasn't worth the paper that the contract was written on. I mean, it's just the nature of the beast. Unfortunately, it's tough, and this is why. Like I understand why fans get upset when their favorite players move on, whether it's for financial reasons or due to retirement or injuries or what have you. There's any number of reasons why your favorite player is no longer with the team, and I get it. It sucks. It's unfortunate, but this is why I keep saying it's the name on the front that matters. Like when I see, and I've seen a lot of comments this year. Like, I mean, during the break, I was reading a lot of Facebook comments, and especially with a lot of these moves, and I'm seeing people that are now second guessing their season ticket commitment, and maybe we should just go cheer for this team because they've got our favorite players. Like, it's ridiculous. I get it. I get being upset because your favorite player that you went and got, you take selfies with and you get autographs from and you bought their jersey and all that jazz. It sucks when they move on for whatever reason. But at the end of the day, I mean, to me, I think a fan has to support the team no matter what. I mean, that's what being a fan supposedly is all about. I get, you can still be a fan of a player, and if they move on to another team, you can still support them. I've got absolutely no problem with that. Like anyone that we've gotten to know over the years and has left this team for whatever reason, we always wish them well. We always want the best for these guys. But to start questioning your loyalty to this team or the team that you support because they got rid of the XYZ, I don't get it. It couldn't be me. That's all I gotta say is it couldn't be me. And maybe I'm just
a lot of the talk though too is for 27. Also, I've seen there's still a constant chatter when it comes to people who have told teams they're not going to come back because of the rule changes for 27, which could easily be modified or tweaked before 27. that's a whole new story for Montreal in itself too. Because in order for that to occur, Montreal needs new turf at Percival Molson Stadium, and if anybody has been following, there's right now, as far as I know, there's been no contract to get a new turf at Percival Molson for 26. So, anyways, but that's farther down the line. More to talk about, especially with the U Sport General Assembly in June.
One point I want to make though is go back to 2023 when this Alouettes team went through free agency and they went through hell. You recall that they lost a lot of their star players and the players that people loved all left in free agency, and we were left to scrape the bottom of the barrel, and we ended up with a bunch of it was like the land of misfit toys in a lot of people's eyes. And what happened that year? Oh yeah, the Alouettes went and won the Grey Cup. And these receivers, for example, that people that say, well, the Alouettes have no receivers other than Tyson Philpott. And then guess what? Everybody fell in love with Austin Mack, with Tyler Snead, with Cole Speaker, and they became household names. They became superstars in their own right. In 2026, there are a lot of players that are going to be a part of this team. They're going to come to training camp to fight for a job. And you may not know them from a hole in the wall. I get it. You didn't know Austin Mack from a hole in the wall either, most of you. And look what happened. You didn't know Tyler Snead when he suited up at his first day of training camp, but you know who he is now. You couldn't imagine this team without Tyler Snead nowadays. You're going to find this year, and there's the Alouettes, and we'll talk about this momentarily, but the Alouettes signed a lot of players that I think, I won't say replace. I don't like using the term replace when it comes to these favorite players of ours that move on to other teams or into retirement or whatever. I don't like to use the term replace when it comes to that, but it's a chance to discover and find someone new that is going to make you jump out of your seat and get excited for Montreal Alouettes football. And I think that's what
great.
That's
Even
what we need to be
saying
focusing
upgrade.
on. Sure, you can probably look at it as an upgrade in a lot of respects. To me, though, I think we remember the players that we had or this team had. I gotta stop saying we because we're not part of the team. That's the thing. It's kind of a pet peeve of mine now is the whole we thing. I gotta stop that. But this Alouettes team is rebuilding or has rebuilt or in the process of rebuilding right now. And when training camp rolls around in May, yeah, you're going to notice a few players that you remember from before. You're going to see some new faces. But you know what? Danny Machocha, all he's done is built rosters that go deep into the playoffs and go to Grey Cups. How about, I don't know, having a little faith in what Danny Mac can do? I mean, he's proven time and again he can build a team that can go to the Grey Cup and, hey, even win a Grey Cup too. So I know it's tough for a lot of people, but when they talk about trust the process, you really do have to trust the process. You really have to trust that Danny Machocha and the rest of this organization, they're making the right moves in order to put together a championship caliber roster. And I know I, for one, am very excited at the prospect of some of these players. And you know what? Free agency is still going on too. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if tomorrow, for example, after this show gets published and is out there in the world, Danny Mac drops another bombshell on us. And it's like, holy crap, they just signed this guy? Oh my gosh. Just to screw with our show.
Now, there were a lot of guys, as I said, and you're talking about specifically about those names too that we brought in. I mentioned some of them before, but there were some key ads. There really, really were. And as you said, is it considered an upgrade? Potentially, it could be an upgrade. We got to see what these guys can do. I mean, if you look some of we're talking about Devontae Dedmon. We were wondering what was going to happen with the quarterback situation because Davis Alexander was here in Montreal about a month ago, giving us an update and stuff like that on his current situation. And then we find out recently that we picked up Dustin Crum. In my opinion, I think Dustin Crum we saw him play despite what he had to go through in Ottawa, I think Dustin Crum played well. And obviously he's made a name for himself on what he's been able to do as a quarterback who's able to come back. But Crum, I think, will make a good backup. There's still some question marks when it comes to who's going to be our third. Is it going to be Shea Patterson? Is it going to be somebody else? We don't know. Caleb Evans, we don't know what his current status is because obviously I think he would stay a free agent until he's medically cleared or if he decides to come back and play football. But besides that, too, I mean, there were some pretty other big names that I think that we picked up that will do quite well, I think. I mean, Jareth Stearns. I mean, a lot of these guys you don't expect. I think he was he one? No, Braden Knoll was one of the ones that I don't think we expected. That wasn't one of the ones that was quote unquote reported by other media. Crum was, Stearns was. We knew about Devontae Dedman. That was reported too. To me, this is one of the bigger ones. Especially when he was, we talked to Danny Mac before in the past when it comes to making those futures picks. Sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't. We've actually had some great ones we've waited, they've matured, had their chance in the NFL, and then come here. Here's another good example. Jonathan Sutherland. I don't think he was really a long-term future pick, considering what his status was when he was drafted by the Alouettes back in 23. But look, he's now here now, and he could easily make a huge impact, just like some of the other guys. And he may fit easily very well in with his other teammates.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to see what Sutherland can do. That was the same draft year that the Alouettes had 2 first-round picks, and they drafted Sutherland first, and then they went and drafted Lawal Ugalak, who also too had NFL aspirations, but came back to the Alouettes, helped them win the Grey Cup in tremendous fashion, and again, arguably has become one of the major pieces on this defensive line. Pierre-Olivier Lestage, when he was drafted by the Alouettes in 2021. He was actually signed to a futures contract by the Seattle Seahawks and spent, I think, almost 2 years in that system before eventually coming to Montreal. So, I mean, sometimes it really is about playing the long game. I mean, you in the draft, I ideally go for the best player available, someone who can suit your needs and someone who can become a superstar in your system. There's no doubt in my mind, Danny Machocha looked at Jonathan Sutherland and I said, okay, I got to have this guy. I get it. He wants to try the NFL. Let him. Go for it. We got a spot waiting for him. When he's ready, we got a spot waiting for him. Well, he's clearly ready because, unfortunately, the NFL didn't see the value in him. And as far as I'm concerned, their loss is Montreal's gain because this guy will be a game changer. Putting him in this defense alongside of, in the secondary even, alongside of guys like Wesley Sutton, Najee Murray, Lorenzo Burns, Arthur Hamlin. I mean, holy crap. I mean, you talk about game changer right there. Signing Jonathan Sutherland to a contract and having him be in camp and be a part of this team is a major game changer. And he can play anywhere on the secondary as well. Heck, we just talked about how important it is to have a Canadian safety. We talked about Arthur Hamlin, Nate Beauchemin. Sutherland could easily be in that role. That could very well be one of the roles as well. Or you put him out to the cornerback, halfback. I mean, possibilities are endless. I mean, you could really have a lot of fun with this. I know Noel Thorpe has got to be salivating at the prospect of getting this kid into the Alouettes lineup and be a part of it alongside of the names that I just mentioned. Ooh, oh, my goodness. That is going to be a lot of fun to see. I'm really excited at the prospect of Sutherland coming onto this Noel Thorpe defense and just standing side to side with these guys like Sutton and Murray and so on, and just be absolutely dominant. I mean, if Marc-Antoine Dequoy had decided to stick around, him playing with Sutherland as well would have been absolutely tremendous, but wasn't meant to be, unfortunately. But I'm definitely excited at the prospect of Jonathan Sutherland being a Montreal Alouette. And oh my gosh, I mean, that alone If that was all the Alouettes did, I think I'd still be excited. But nope, they added some other players that I think also too. You may not know them now, but they've got potential to be absolute terrors. One name that stands out to me right away is Chidozie Nwankwo. You ask who he is. Well, he played for the University of Colorado, coached by Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, who was very, very big on this kid. The fact that the Montreal Alouettes were able to bring him here is tremendous. This guy is an absolute beast. Just watching highlights of Colorado games and seeing what this kid can do, holy crap. Like, he is going to be a force. And again, yes, the Alouettes just lost Dylan Wynn. Sean Lemon is not coming back to this team. But this defensive line, and we've talked about time and time again of how important it is for this defensive line to be important for Danny Mac. You know, it's always been his project to make sure this is the best possible defensive line. Well, you line this kid up with guys like Isaac Adeyemi Berglund, with Lual Ugalak, and so on. Whew. My God. And Gabriel Maisonneuve, also too, edge rusher that plays with that same kind of intensity. I mean, this defensive line is going to be more than okay. I mean, yeah, Dylan Wynn was definitely coming into his own as a Montreal Alouette, and your first thought when you see him leave is, oh man, that sucks. But okay, you take a look at some of these guys that are already in place, as well as some of these, like I said, Nwankwo and Maisonneuve coming in. You know what? I think this D line is going to be perfectly fine in 2026, and I'm excited to see what Noah Thorpe does with his defense, because he just takes what Danny Mac gives him to work with, and he just does absolutely incredible things. So defensively, I'm definitely not worried about this Montreal Alouettes team.
And there's another one to talk about names too. You may not know him, but you may know by what he's gone by, what he goes by, and what his last name is. But Tariq Owens, former Niner and son of Terrell Owens. And I think I saw it was an interview with him the other day, and he was talking about the CFL and how, you know, he wants to be here on his merit. I think Danny Mac said that I didn't sign his father, I signed his son. So, you know, it doesn't place him into that category that the Owls were known to do under Jim Pop, signing big names of former big name NFL players, and most of them not doing really well. This is different. And as I said, we've diamonds in the rough, man. You talk about Danny Mac and being able to find these diamonds in the rough. It's very possible that Tariq will become one of those diamonds in the rough and make a huge name for himself with the Owls and in the CFL.
Yeah, it's funny how Danny Machocha signs a former San Francisco 49er. Didn't we see this 3 years ago with Austin Mack? And how did that turn out? Now, Austin Mack, his father was not a famous NFL receiver. I think back to Deron Carter when the Alouettes brought him in. And same principle. You didn't sign his father. You signed him because you saw the talent that was there. I'm sure Jim Pop, if we have him back on again for another interview, we can talk to him about what he saw in Deron Carter. And everybody else eventually got to see what they saw in Deron Carter. And he had himself a pretty decent career here in the Canadian Football League. There's no reason that Tariq Owens couldn't have similar success. And for him to do that here in Montreal, that'd be absolutely fantastic. Now, stands a question, though. All of a sudden, number 81 is available. You may remember Terrell Owens, his dad.
You're right.
I wonder, could we see an Owens 81 jersey, but blue and red? Or, as you mentioned, would Tariq purposely avoid that in order to, as you say, like stand on his own, to sort of not be in his father's shadow, which, again, I would respect the hell out of him for that as well. But I got to say, the prospect of seeing an Owens 81 jersey an Alouettes jersey, I wouldn't be mad at that. I think that could have potential to be money, quite frankly.
Yeah. Talk about numbers. By the way, we mentioned Devontae Dedmon in his conversation the other day on the free agent special that the Alouettes held. We found out that he chose 7.
Mm.
So we're looking at how the number 7 has progressed over the last 40 years. No, longer than that. Since Trevor Harris. So
Yeah.
it's made its rounds, that's for sure.
Well, and also Dedmon couldn't take 17 like he had in Ottawa because, well, Cole
Yeah.
Speakers got that. So
Yeah.
7
Yeah.
is not a bad replacement. And yeah, I mean, typically whoever wears number 7 for the Alouettes tends to have tremendous success, it seems. Going all the way back to one John Bowman and the other names that you mentioned as well. There's some, maybe there is something to be said for lucky number 7, I suppose.
I guess so. I can say this, and I think we'll do this now. Before we talk about, because you actually had some other than the key ads, you had some ideas when it came to wild cards and stuff like that, and maybe who could be a good fit. And there was some other Alouettes news when it came to football ops news, and the recent news that broke today about the dance team. But if I can find it, first game, it is the first one of the year, right? We are on social media. You can find us anywhere. You can find all of our archive, our 10 plus seasons over at www.alouettesflightdeck.ca. You can find me at Repack. That's REPPACT. And that's over on X or on Blue Sky. Same thing with Cliff, but you can find him over at Cliffy D. If you're looking to rep some gear, we have a couple things in the works. I got some of the artwork today, and I'm looking to put it out. It will either way, whoever is hosting the shop, you can find it either way over at flightdeckgear.ca. Like that there. And also, we were happy to re-sign. Speaking of our free agent, we're happy to re-sign Royal Retros as our presenting sponsor. We have to go to Royal Retros and use the code use Flightdeck at checkout. You will save 10% off your entire order. Again, we're glad to have them on our team and on the manifest for 2026. And we can't wait to let you guys know about other things that are coming up, because we have a couple more things that are in the works. So, and by the way, other than that, you can find us on X. You can find us on Blue Sky over at Alouettes FL Deck, Facebook over at Alouettes Flight Deck Pod, Instagram and YouTube over at Alouettes Flight Deck. May not be there now, but over on YouTube, make sure you do hit you do follow us, hit the like button, hit the bell for when we do go live or when any of the new shows do become available, because not only will you find the audio version, the full broadcast versions of this show, but you will also see coming up in month plus or so, give or take, or maybe a little bit more than that, Flight Deck Live. Flight Deck Live is back for the 2026 season. And based on what we did last year and the record number of shows that we did combined between the podcast and Flight Deck Live, we can't wait to see, we can't wait for you guys to see what we're going to do in 2026.
Oh man, it's so exciting. And season 11 that we're at here, Tim. This is definitely exciting. I mean, it's that new hope, like, I mean, let's face it, this is a tumultuous time of year for football fans, because as again, going through free agency, and as we discussed, a lot of favorite players, part ways with the team, but new favorites come in, and there's just so much potential. And even though it's way too early to talk about Grey Cup odds, FanDuel actually had the Alouettes listed as the favorite to win the Grey Cup this year. I can't remember any instance where the Alouettes were considered the odds-on favorite to win the Grey Cup. It's been a while, anyways.
Yeah, right. It has been a while. I will admit. Now, we talked about the different players, which are wild cards. Right now, it's very possible, by the way, because I know you didn't list these, but we could, because we talked about already with Dennis Crum. I think currently we have 4 quarterbacks on the roster, but it's not who people think. You know, we've already signed some other quarterbacks. We have Crum and we have Davis Alexander, but right now free agency, Shea Patterson's not here. James Morgan is not signed, and Caleb Evans is still hurt, as far as we know. But we did sign some guys that I guess Danny Mac felt that we were good enough to bring into camp. And what are your thoughts? I mean, I'm trying to find the names of these guys here because I know that's the way the transaction wire is going here. Hold on a second. Reese, no, sorry, released. Too many people on this transaction wire, CFL. Can't you make it so I can look it up a different way?
All right, there's Oregon. Here, I'll help you. It's Anthony Brown, Dresser Wynn.
Thank you.
EJ Perry, I believe, was also brought back as well.
Oh, okay. Okay.
As my understanding. Way, so, I mean...
Yeah. By the way, Anthony Brown, another Oregon quarterback.
Ooh. Hey, you know, the last time we had an Oregon quarterback here, that kind of worked out okay. So,
yeah, he went by
I'm all
letters
for it.
also.
True,
he went by 2 letters also.
There you go. I mean,
so we're going to probably have the most quarterbacks in camp in the Danny Mac era. I have to go back and check, but is that possible?
Well, when you think about what happened with Davis Alexander last year, and let's not forget, Davis Alexander came out of nowhere. Danny Mac found him, you know, and nobody knew who this guy was. But his first day, he blew the doors off of everybody. And I think he's hoping that someone else will come in and do likewise this year for the Montreal Alouettes. And in order to do so, you got to bring in a few quarterbacks, especially after this year. This past season with Davis Alexander and the issues with his hamstring, it would behoove the Alouettes to make sure that they have a good plan B, because the plan B they had last year, unfortunately, didn't quite pan out.
So 3-letter quarterbacks don't pan out.
They didn't last year anyways. Hell, anything can happen. So that's why, yeah, you go out and you get a Dustin Crum, and like I said, we
Dustin,
hope and pray that.
Yeah, I like Dustin. Yeah,
it happens. Crum back. That's all you got to say, right?
Yeah, Crum back, exactly. So yeah, it's very possible. I'll go back and check our rosters. It's probably the most. But you had some different wild cards too, and obviously we're not done yet when it comes in. Obviously we got the draft coming up and stuff like that. I don't really think the Alouettes are going to draft a quarterback in the Canadian draft, but who the hell knows? If there is one really that's worthy of being. I mean, the last one that we had with Jonathan Senecal, he didn't make it through camp. But there are some other wild cards that you had on your list that you wanted to talk about. We talked about a couple of them, but tell us about who you think are these wild cards that potentially could become re-sign with the Alouettes and play, potentially go into camp and play with them in 26.
Well, I'm surprised that both Deontay Evans and Charleston Rambo are unsigned, whether it's by the Alouettes or by anybody, really. I mean,
yeah,
these are two very high caliber quality players that would be a tremendous boost to anybody's roster. Why they haven't signed, I'm baffled. I mean, Deontay Evans is a veteran. That's not to say he's old, but he is definitely a veteran. So I can't help but wonder if maybe people are a little cautious about that. Like maybe they see it more as like an insurance policy as opposed to a got to go out and get kind of thing, which, okay, right. Fair. And again, every time the Montreal Alouettes brought him in, he did extremely well for them. So, I mean, I don't know. Personally, I'd be looking to offer him something, but maybe he feels he can get more money elsewhere, and it just simply hasn't happened yet, because I know it's not to say everybody's already, blown their brains out when it comes to free agency. I'm sure there's still lots of roster spots, and there's still lots of money to be made if you're a CFL player. It's just a matter of opportunity and whatnot. But Charleston Rambo, though, is still very much a high quality receiver. Like, this guy is a bona fide deep threat, and someone I would think that Davis Alexander would want to have in his arsenal. But okay, for whatever reason, he's still out there. He can still be taken on by anybody. So, yeah, I'm baffled by those two names as to why they're still free agents. Sean Thomas Erlington as well. I know he was coming off of a fairly serious injury, so I mean that may be a concern. But again, when he's healthy, I mean he definitely showed in 2024 and even into 2025 before getting hurt that he is definitely a force. He is definitely somebody that can do incredible things on your team. So simply could just be a matter of like these guys just may simply be looked at as insurance policies for CFL teams. Like, okay, I'll wait until X player gets hurt and then I'm going to go sign those guys. Could very well be the case. One thing I was looking at though is just looking at the other rosters and the other CFL free agents that are still out there as of this recording, and thinking, is there anybody out there that would be a good fit for this Montreal Alouettes organization? And I came up with a couple of names. I swear it's not by design, but it's kind of funny. Like I've got three names that I think would be very interesting to see as members of the Montreal Alouettes. They're all Canadian players. They're all national players, which, as you know, national players do tend to command a slightly higher salary. But in the case of two of them, both being from Quebec, I'm hoping that perhaps they might be willing to do the hometown discount thing in order to play for the Alouettes. Again, that could be a pipe dream, but I'm throwing it out there and maybe manifesting it a little bit. You know, just what's the harm behind your conversation? That's how I would look at it. If I was Danny Machocha, it's like, you know what, maybe this might be worth considering. So I'm thinking Shane Gauthier played for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, is currently a free agent. As the Alouettes are going more Canadian when it comes to linebacker, as evidenced by the extensions of Tyrell Richards and Jeffrey Conte Arcu, Shane Gauthier would not be a terrible name to add to that mix. Again, another Quebecer on the team is not a bad thing as far as I'm concerned. Supposedly, Danny Machocha loves signing Quebecers, according to every CFL draft expert. So maybe this is an ideal fit. Another name, another linebacker who could also play in the secondary as well, Enoch Makonzo. Again, he came into this league with all kinds of hype, and deservedly so, because he had one hell of a college career at Coastal Carolina. For whatever reason, he hasn't quite found the right system, and I'd be curious to see how he would work here in Montreal. Again, Quebec native. Maybe it would be of interest of him to come and try out for the Montreal Alouettes, to come be a part of this organization. Maybe this is the right fit. Maybe this is the secret sauce that he's been looking for to truly showcase what he's able to do. Because, again, watching him in college, he definitely has shown all kinds of potential. Due to injuries or whatnot, it just simply hasn't really worked out for him in the CFL. But maybe, just maybe, sometimes it's that right fit. And maybe that could be found here in Montreal. Who's to say? But to me, that's somebody that I would be taking a flyer on. And last but certainly not least, Sean McEwen, who has proven himself time and time again as a very solid offensive lineman. Again, we cannot overstate how important it is to have good offensive linemen backing up or in front of your quarterback. You got to keep Davis Alexander or whoever it is that's behind center upright and give them time and space to do what they do best. I've beaten this in over and over again. I think Sean McEwen would be a very valuable add, as well as someone who can help along a lot of these younger players, like Tiger Shanks, for example, who, again, I think is going to go into that next level in his second season this year. And I'm very excited to see that. But depth is so important for this offensive line. I mean, you can't just yes, you can draft offensive linemen. It's always a good idea to do so and develop them and all that. But Sean McEwen comes developed. He's already ready. Mm-hmm. He's won Grey Cups. He knows what it takes to be that next level on the offensive line. And I would absolutely be thrilled to see him line up alongside the other Canadians like Justin Lawrence, Pierre-Louis Stage, Tiger Shanks, and so on. Mm-hmm. I think that would be one of those sneaky good moves. Again, would not come cheap. I'm sure of that. I'm sure he's going to certainly do everything he can to maximize his salary, but that would be one name that I think could truly be a difference maker for this offensive line here in Montreal, especially when you consider the names that have been let go and lost over the past couple of years when it comes to this O-line, including the offensive line coach, Luc Brodeur-Jourdain. Ideally, you want to have that veteran presence, and Sean McEwen definitely brings that. So if I'm Danny Mac, I'm seriously thinking about picking up the phone and seeing if this guy is willing to listen to what we have to offer. If I was Danny Mac, that would be my thought process, is those three guys. Folks, do you agree? Do you think I'm out to lunch? Well, you probably do, but let us know in the comments if you think that these would be interesting ads, or do you think it would be like pie in the sky for the Montreal Alouettes to even think about getting any of these guys? Let us know in the comments what you think.
Yeah, for sure. And again, think things may change instead leading up to camp. And I will, I will. I'm not when it comes to. I'm good at looking at talent, but I think you're probably better. So I will go to your expertise there on who maybe would be a good fit, and we'll see what happens. As I said, as I said earlier in the show, training, whoever shows up at training camp may not currently be on the roster because we're still within free agency right now. So, by the way, I'm very surprised about Charles Rambo. Very surprised. He was a threat. He wasn't a detriment to the team, that's for sure. He had his off days, off games, but he's still a very competent wide receiver, and I don't understand that. I don't.
He's got deep threat potential. Definitely a good route runner. I mean, he's one of those guys that there was a couple times though I feel like Davis was throwing hospital balls at him, but sometimes it's just a matter of developing that chemistry. We talk about how important it is to develop that chemistry. And let's not forget, Davis Alexander did miss basically half the year due to his injury. Yeah. So, I mean, developing that, it starts in training camp and it continues throughout the entire season. So, I mean, if we had a full season of Davis Alexander at quarterback and Charleston Rambo as one of his top receivers, I think it would be a completely different story. But it is what it is. I mean, Charleston Rambo is still out there, and there's no question that whoever does sign him will be getting a game breaker if given the right opportunity.
So besides this, you need some be able to, these guys need to be able to look forward to somebody or be able to listen to somebody to potentially improve their game or make modifications to how they're currently playing. You look at, Caben Ento. If it wasn't for some of these head coaches and stuff like that, it's very possible that Caben would not become the player and the beast that he is on the defensive side of the ball today without these guys. The Alouettes did release all the official coaching staffs and operation staffs for 2026, Cliff. Slight modifications when it came to the coaching staff itself. I think one of the cooler things too that I don't know if most people knew this or not is, and the Alouettes seem to make a very big deal out of this. I'm curious to know your thoughts. Is that Anthony Calvillo, the GOAT, officially added? He's now considered the OC for the team. The team in the press release did say that Coach Moss had been calling the plays prior to this, but now it is now going to AC. What? Just real quick thoughts on that, because we saw him up in the thing, quarterbacks coach, now officially having the title of OC. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, he's always had the title of OC. It's just that OC, in his case, he was designing the plays, whereas Jason Moss was the one who actually called the plays. Now that responsibility does fall 100% on AC, which typically most offensive coordinators are also the play caller. So this takes a bit of pressure off of Jason Moss. It lets him manage other aspects of of his job. And now it's on AC. And I'm definitely curious to see how it's going to go, because let's not forget, he was an offensive coordinator several years ago and it just didn't work. And it was, again, he was learning how to do the job. on the
That's
job.
when he was
And
rushed into it. I think they ended back in Toronto and then came back. And yeah, I know what you're talking about. And I'm sure many others do because it's like he was thrust into the quote unquote OC job. It just really wasn't working at that point in Alouettes history.
exactly. And I think now with time, with working with Jason Moss and learning how to truly be an offensive play caller, and he's come up with some absolutely phenomenal plays. It's going to be up to him to get those plays out to Davis Alexander and company. And I'm excited. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how that works. One also little tweak as well to the coaching staff. Michael Leonello, who is the receivers coach, is also now the pass game coordinator. That's going to be very interesting to see as well. Because again, working with these receivers, and we've talked with him a number of times last year. He's excited about this receiving. He's been excited about this receiving core for quite some time, and now that he gets to have a bit of a say in some of the coaching, like how the plays go, I'm curious to see what he's going to be able to come up with as well in working with AC. So it's I think offensively, this team has potential to really open things up.
Another big name that, and to me, if you've been following the CFL as long as we have, we knew this name. But AJ Gass joins the coaching staff as linebackers coach, and Dominico Mano joins the team as the offensive assistant. Having a name like AJ Gass being a linebackers coach, I think it's actually. I know we've gone through so many years of loving day one of practice. I can only imagine what it's going to be like to be able to see what Coach Gass does and to see his style of coaching with the players in St. Jerome coming up in May.
Well, he's got some big shoes to fill with Greg Quick leaving for Toronto to be their defensive coordinator. I think the bar was set pretty high with Coach Quick, and I'm curious to see what AJ Gass, who has done a phenomenal job out for the University of Alberta, and getting their players, ready for the big leagues. And this is going to be a tremendous opportunity. And it's funny, this team, especially with Jason Moss as the head coach. I mean, I'm not surprised that he goes to a former Edmonton player as well to help out. So you can't replace a Greg Quick so easily, but I'm curious to see what AJ Gass does with this linebacking core. And he's got some absolute dudes to work with potential of adding more. So yeah, I'm definitely curious to see what that's going to be like. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think, especially you got Noel Thorpe, AJ Gass, Corvey Irvin with the defensive line. I tell you, this defense, year in and year out, this defense has been the cornerstone of this Alouettes franchise. Add to that potential high octane offense, and some of you fans are still worried about this team. You're still doubting Danny Machochi. You're still doubting whether this team is going to be because certain players have left. Man, go with them then. That's how I look at it, because I'm excited for this 2026 Alouettes team as it sits right now. I know what we've talked about, what it's like on paper, but you take a look at some of these names, and I know I can't help but be excited about the prospect of what these coaches and these players can do. So, I mean, damn, I wish it was May. I mean,
yeah.
I mean,
I know it's soon, so we're getting there. The cool thing is looks like we have a couple things in between. Obviously, we got the draft, we got we got the combine, et cetera, coming up and stuff like that. But also, the team did also announce their football operations staff. Allison Sobel will not be with the team this year. It was announced that it seemed like her position with the Alouettes is basically being broken up now between two people when it comes between Bianca Machocha. She is now the coordinator of football ops and team services. And I hope I'm pronouncing that Garland's Duclerville is also the football operations coordinator and player personnel. not really much more has changed with came with the football ops and stuff like that. But um, I'm curious to know. Obviously, women in sports, we finally are able to see. A lot of people have come through Montreal, have made a huge name for themselves in pro football and stuff like that across the board, and here in Canada and obviously in the States. It is sad to see Allison go, whichever the reason was, whether it be the contract wasn't renewed or another opportunity. I will admit it will suck not to see her on the sideline, but and I don't think people need to. I think people need to get it out of their heads right away that Bianca Machocha just got it because of her father. Sometimes, yes, people say, "Oh, it's not necessarily what you know, but who you know." In this case, I don't think that's the case. In this instance, just by looking at what her pedigree is, she's gone through the steps, she's made a name for herself. And it seems to be as we've seen, Cliff, the Owls seem to be able to be breaking up different positions between multiple people. Like there's no president anymore. You know what I mean? Now between Renee Messel and Jenny Machocha as the two positions for president and CEO, that seems to be doing for football, for football ops and stuff like that. But either way, we had Allison on the show. We wish her all the best, obviously. Again, it's some slight modifications there. Anything that really stood out to you when it came to these, anything on the coaching staff or football ops that really stood out to you before we move on?
Oh, I'd be remiss if we didn't mention that Dave Brown is now taking over as offensive line coach. He was assistant offensive line coach under Luc Berger-Jourdain, but now he gets promoted to the big spot. A former player, former Alouette too. He basically retired and became a coach here in Montreal, starting out basically as a coaching intern or quality assistant or whatever they call it, but basically it's coaching intern to learn how to become a coach. And now it's his game. It's his chance to run the show for the offensive line. And again, he's got some talent to work with. So I mean, I think what's going to work in his favor, much like with LBJ, is that he's played the position. He knows what it takes. He's just recently removed from it, just like Luc was when he retired in 2019. He basically jumped right back into it with, learning how to be a coach and being still involved with the organization. Dave Brown now has that opportunity as well. And there's no doubt in my mind that, this train keeps on rolling as far as I'm concerned. Like for some people, they'd be, losing guys like Luc Berger-Jourdain or Greg Quick would be, monumental losses. And it's tough to see great coaches move on for whatever reason. But the replacements that are in place now, I think will do just fine and will even thrive as far as I'm concerned. And I think that's just how Jason Moss, when he puts together a staff, it's just keep it going. Keep going with what works. Identify what you need and put the best person in place. And there's no doubt in my mind that he feels that AJ Gass is the best person to replace Greg Quick. Dave Brown is the best person to replace Luc Berger-Jourdain. The rest of the coaches are still in play. They're all still going to be major parts of how this team does, win or lose. I'm not too worried about this coaching staff at all. On the business admin side of things, listen, you can question the methods, but you can't argue with the results. Again, let's not forget, this team has been to 2 Grey Cups in the past 3 years. They're obviously doing something right. On the field, yes, is what's important. But off the field, I think this team is doing everything it can to be the best possible organization. Despite the fact that the CFL Player Association report cards came out and the Alouettes got a F when it comes to dealing with family. This one kind of threw me for a loop because I only think back to all my experiences in dealing with family members of this organ, like the players' family members. We talk to a lot of parents. We talk to a lot of brothers and sisters and cousins and so on, like, family members that come and watch their son or brother or whatnot play. And we've always, I I've always gotten great impressions. Like, they're so happy, they're excited to watch their family member do what they do for the Montreal Alouettes, and I'm surprised to hear that. So I don't want to say they're being treated shabbily, but clearly an F is not an ideal grade. So I'm really baffled. I would love to hear from whether it's players or family members or whatnot, like what's causing this grade, because it just feels like it's not a good look for the Alouettes to not take care of family. I mean, everybody talks about football is family, and a lot of that means people that are working for your organization, you take care of them and you take care of their family as well, to the best of your ability. And I personally have never heard of anything like family members being treated poorly or anything like that by the organization. So I'm really curious what caused this F grade, because I mean, everything that I've seen in this organization, it's not perfect, and I'm sure there's a lot of things that need to be improved upon when it comes to this team and how they run things, their day-to-day operations. But
yeah,
when I see like family, supposedly being treated, less than, I'm baffled more than anything else. So I'd really love to hear from somebody as to what prompted such a terrible grade for this team.
Again, I said sometimes change is good, and I guess we'll see what happens going forward. Speaking of change, for the second time since 2020, the Alouettes cheerleaders / cheer team / stunt team / whatever they're called now are no more. Kind of. If anybody remembers, that was back in 2020. Actually, it was almost to the day that we're taping this. In February of 2020, the new ownership group, led by Stiegel and Stern, SNS Sportico, did away with the cheerleaders. And less than a week later, because of outcry and of support, the team was back. It's funny. This is how my mind works. I remember where I was when I heard that the team was getting, where they were abandoning cheerleaders. Why I remember that now versus other stuff in the world, who the hell knows why? But it was announced today, and this is why I say kind of. The Montreal Alouettes stunt team, cheer team, is no more as of today, as announced by the Alouettes. They're being replaced by the cheer team from Université de Montréal. So the UDM cheer team is going to be primary at Alouettes games, at least in 2026. Two things to me. And I brought this up to you prior, while we were doing prep for the show. So say the Owls go to the Grey Cup again. Cheerleaders usually go. Are they going? Do you know what I mean? It's like, are they going to wear Owls gear at the stadium? I know it's the minor thing. Obviously they're going to be announced as the Université de Montréal Carabin cheer team, which is weird in itself. Anyways, second thing to me, though, that really is the concerning thing is cost cutting. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, they split up the presidency between two people. They split up the football ops thing between two people. And now they cut the team and bring in, I don't want to say a lesser than, because I've not even seen them, but bring in a secondary team for something that this team has had since 1996, since it came back. Do you see this as a major cost-cutting issue? And if so, if it is cost-cutting in any way to you, does it concern you?
If I was going to be concerned, I think I'd be more concerned about the whole splitting up presidential duties as opposed to cheerleaders, quite frankly. I mean, I get it. Cheerleaders, yeah. I get it. People do like the cheerleaders. People do. There are a lot of people that really appreciate that aspect of football. I'm not one of them. I don't dislike them, but at the same time, I don't go to football games to watch the cheerleaders. I go to watch a football game. I mean, cheerleaders they're there. You expect to see them. Okay, now this year it's going to be a university cheer squad. Okay, that's different. It's not something I would have thought could potentially work, but okay, maybe it's something. So I mean, uh, whether or not this is a cost cutting measure or if it's is this is Pierre Carl Pelledo trying to save some money? Is it just trimming the fat, so to speak? I mean, again, these are questions that are far beyond my pay grade, or are better left to people more intelligent than you and I. Whether or not this team has a cheerleading squad, like a professional cheerleading squad or a university cheerleading squad, I still think fans will be entertained no matter what. I still think Percival Molson Stadium will still be the place to go watch a football game, not just in Montreal, but in the entire Canadian Football League. It's just going to be a little different at first, but who knows? And again, we haven't seen them. I know you and I haven't personally seen the Carabao cheer squad, so maybe they'll come in, they'll blow the doors off of everybody. Maybe this will be the start of a opportunity for other universities throughout the Canadian Football League to showcase their cheer squads with professional clubs. Kind of like a AAA player getting called up to the big leagues, right? Maybe it's a chance for them to showcase what they can do and maybe show that they belong on the big stage. Who knows? Maybe that's the thought process with the Alouettes right now. Maybe it's not necessarily about cost cutting, but because I mean, like from what I recall, the cheerleaders were not getting paid thousands of dollars to do their thing. I mean, they definitely had a place. They definitely had an importance within the organization as far as like community outreach and being part of a lot of these events that the Alouettes would be a part of. I mean, you'd always see a few cheerleaders there as well to help, pipe everybody up and such. And to not see that anymore is definitely going to be interesting to say the least. But maybe this is just one of those throw it against the wall ideas, see if it sticks. Maybe. As far as, is this a sign of the Alouettes having money troubles? I don't think so. Not when you have a billionaire with a B owning this team.
Yeah.
And yes, you don't get rich by signing checks. I can tell you that right now. So it could be just one of those things where I'm trying to err on the idea that this is just trying something new to see if it works or not. And it's not, if it doesn't work, in theory, you could go back. You could rehire cheerleaders and have them do what they were doing before. So, and as far as Grey Cup goes, I mean, all the cheer squads do go to Grey Cup no matter what. Even if the Alouettes weren't in it, you should still see the.
Oh yeah. I'm just saying. It just seems. I'll give it a shot, but again, it was this really fat that needed to be trimmed. I don't know. Again, as I said, maybe there'll be. I don't know if there'll be as much uproar as there was when the team got dumped in 2020. Because a new owner had come in, and this is one of the first things that they did as being new owners. So, I don't.
Well, I guess we'll see. By the time our next show rolls around, we'll have a better idea of whether there's that same uproar or if people are just gonna be like, it is what it is.
Yeah, I'm gonna end this show on a happy, actually, a very cool note. You talked about outreach. You talked about, it's great to see with the Alouettes bringing back the whole school thing, adopt an Alouette thing, whatever that. I can't remember the name of it is off the top of my head here for what they do for their schools, for the school stuff. But we did learn that Isaac Ademi Berglund is going to be hosting a youth camp in Halifax in mid-March. Oh, but you say, Tim, what's the big deal? Isaac Bergen, a local kid, It's the guys that he has asked and have said yes to being guest coaches. It is, if you know what? It could be like an Alouettes home game with the amount of guys that are currently on this roster. And this one's new. I hadn't seen this one. Joshua Archibald's going to be there. The Walt Uglak's going to be there. Jeffrey Carton Arku is going to be there. Davis Alexander, Tyson Philpott. Who did I forget? I forgot somebody else.
Well, obviously,
Byron
Isaac will be
Archambault. Byron Archambault is going to be there. And it's a 3-day youth camp during spring break. This is the amount. I mean, obviously, it's under the Berglund Bridge banner, which is his own. But he's able to bring this youth camp for 3 days with this many pros from the Alouettes. It just blows my mind with the guys that have been are just being so, so giving with their time to be able to do this 3-day thing.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, and think about it, if you're a young football player in the Maritimes, you're getting coached up not just by Isaac Adeyemi Berglund, a local kid who has gone on to become a superstar in this league, but he's bringing along his friends, and oh my, is he ever bringing along some superstars?
Wesley Sutton, there's another one, Wes Sutton.
Okay, like we got a friggin' all-star team here. I mean, this is,
I know,
absolutely incredible. Like if I'm a young football player, I will move heaven and earth to get to this camp, because I'm going to get coached up by all of these guys. Holy crap.
And QB1, QB Fun's going to be there. Big play DA, he'll also be there. I mean, as I said, I mean, this thing, for this to happen in the Maritimes, I know it can differ from place to place when it comes to, that the Alouettes are only a Quebec team. I'm hoping, let's hopefully get some more kids, get them some nice Alouettes merch when they're there and doing this type of stuff. This is going to be cool.
Absolutely. I mean, and again,
we'll see. We got a couple of things in the works we're Cliff and I are floating about, but we'll leave it at that. But this is a cool initiative, needless to say, for IAB and all the guys that he's able to bring in to help be guest coaches for this thing.
Yeah, I mean, Isaac too, like throughout the holiday season, was helping with like food drives and Christmas drives for less fortunate people in the Montreal area. I mean, like, guy's got a heart of gold, quite frankly. And the fact that he's going back home and helping coach up some of these potential young superstars. I mean, my God. I mean, and bringing along, as you said, like a practical all-star team of coaches to help these youngsters. My God. Like, again, if you're a young player in the Atlantic and you're looking to get better, who better to help you along than guys like Davis Alexander, Wesley Sutton, Josh Archibald, and so on, and Isaac. I mean, what a treat! What a treat! And the fact that Isaac is putting this on together and bringing in all this talent, absolutely amazing. I mean, we're big Isaac Adeyemi Berglund fans. I mean, he's just such a solid dude on and off the field, and this just cements it even further. I mean, wow, just wow. I mean, I know most kids think about spring break. They're gonna, maybe want to try sleep in or get caught up on their video games or whatever. But if you're playing football in the Atlantic provinces and you have a chance to get coached up by a lot of Montreal Alouettes, you do that. You got to do that. Like, my goodness. And hopefully this will also help stoke some of the fires for, the Canadian Football League to really take another look at the Atlantic provinces as far as expansion goes. I know that Stuart Johnson had talked about that during Grey Cup, talked about it in other interviews as well, about how that is on the table. By 2030, he expects to see a 10th team in the league. And I know a lot of people really do want it to be in the Atlantic provinces, whether it's Halifax or elsewhere. But I mean, it's going to be efforts like this that will help stoke those fires, that will help get people talking about it. And if not, then yeah, the Alouettes will, just by being the most eastern team of the Canadian Football League, may gain a whole other fan base as a result of this, as a result of these kids that remember, hey, I had a whole bunch of Alouettes coaching me up during my spring break, and yeah, I want to support this team. I want to be a part of this. I want to be a part of Alouettes Nation as a result of this. So great initiative.
Ugalak, I just read too. I'm crazy.
This is nuts. I mean, I'm sure other CFL players in their respective cities are going to probably put together similar camps like this, and if they do, that's amazing. But I mean, like, just for, again, these are Montreal Alouettes going east to a market that is woefully underserved, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh yeah,
That is
for
just
sure, for sure, for sure.
absolutely tremendous.
Yeah, it's under, by the way, the Bridge the Gap. It's the youth football camp from March 16th to 18th in officially in Lance, Nova Scotia, and that is it's about 10 minutes. I don't know if I don't know Lance, but it's 10 minutes outside of the airport in Halifax, or what is considered the Halifax International Airport. So, still, dude, 11th season has begun. Episode 1 is in the books. We are on our off-season schedule. So at the moment, it'll be every 2 weeks for the show. So stay tuned to all of our socials for when the next show will be. But again, it will be 2, and we're heading back to the normal Wednesday broadcast date. We just wanted to stay with tradition. First live show being on the Thursday right after training camp. Right after training camp, I got it. Training camp in the head. Free agency, just in case something else came over the wire. But as you said, something will probably break tomorrow, and they'll have to wait to the next show. So, but
Yep.
it was still fun to get back onto the mic and talk about the Alouettes and see what this team's going to potentially look like heading into camp. And as I said, the road to the Grey Cup 113 in Calgary has already started.
Absolutely. And it starts now. I mean, and that's what I love is that, yeah, even though there's no, training camp's not till May, but there's still so much that's going on between now and May that will definitely keep us, wanting to talk some football without question. I mean, even if it is every 2 weeks that we're on, so you won't see us until probably the 25th, I guess now, but I'm sure there'll be other moves that'll be made. I'm sure other, potential signings to be done as well. Like I said, there's still quite a few interesting players out there, for whether they're former Alouettes or other part of other CFL teams that could potentially make their way to Montreal. So, I mean, free agency isn't just one day, folks. I mean, it really is going on now, and a lot can happen between now and the next episode. So, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you're following us on social media. Make sure you're informed and you hit the notification so that you know when we do drop the next episode, because as far as I'm concerned, we wanted to hit the ground running tonight, and we wanted to get you caught up on what the Alouettes have been doing since 2025. And again, I am truly excited for what's to come this year. There's a lot to be excited about. I know we had some losses when it comes to certain players and whatever. And I get that, and I appreciate how people feel about that. But I look at where this team is going, and I still can't help but be excited. And I really hope that each and every one of you will continue to join us along this ride, because season 11 is going to be absolutely phenomenal. I can feel it. I'm excited. I know you're excited, Tim. And we hope that each and every one of you that's watching or downloads this will be just as excited and will want to join us for this ride as well.
I agree. So again, we will see you in 2 weeks, and we thank everybody obviously who chimed in tonight. It's great to hear your feedback on stuff like that, on the topics that we do bring up, and what you guys think about the show. It's really greatly appreciated. So we will see you on the next show in 2 weeks. So for the for the final time here at the Alouettes Flight Deck, for Cliffy D, I'm Tim Capper. We're on Final Approach.